Okay, good afternoon. It's Professor Lynn Griffiths here, and I just want to welcome you all to today's afternoon event. This is the Life Sciences Innovation Export Hub launch webinar. I know we've still got a couple of participants that are coming in, but I think most of you are there. If you are having any problems getting through to us, there should be some details in the Eventbrite information, so you could contact us if you're having trouble getting through. But I think we're getting close to having the participant numbers now. So based on that, I'll just start off by welcoming you all. Thank you all very much for coming and joining us to find out a little bit today about the LSI Export Hub. But I will start off by just acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we all stand, and to acknowledge the continuous role of elders past, present and emerging. I'll also give you a bit of an overview of the agenda for this afternoon. So we are launching, this is the launch of the LSI Export Hub. So lucky today we have the Honourable Karen Andrews, MP, the Minister who will be opening this for us. We then have a number of speakers thereafter. So the LSI Export Hub overview will be given by Nagaraj Gopasetti from Life Sciences Queensland. I, Lynn Griffiths from QUT, will be giving an overview of the Hub's domestic activities, and Rob Scott from ACTI, the Australian China Technology Incubator, will be giving us an overview of the international activities of the Hub. And then we have a special speaker who'll be talking about immersion and residence opportunities. And this is Anthony Coles from H+ Labs and TUS. And also then we have Joel Spotswood, who's the program manager for the LSI Export Hub, will provide an overview of the application and selection process, and also facilitate questions and answers from the various speakers today as well. So that's an overview of what we're expecting, and these are the speakers that will be here in the launch today. So as I've mentioned, Karen Andrews, Nagaraj Gopasetti, myself, Rob Scott, Anthony Coles and Joel Spotswood. Just for a little bit of housekeeping to check that everybody's comfortable and knows what's going to happen. At the moment, all of the attendees are muted and your video is turned off. However, at any stage, you can feel free to ask questions during the presentation. What we're going to do is hold those questions to the end. So the questions will be answered during the Q&A session of the agenda. And this is all done through the chat function, which you'll find down at the bottom of your screen. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. And also we are recording the whole session. So if you can't stay for the whole time, we'll record it and we're going to upload that onto the Export Hub website. And there's the website there. So I think to start, this is a launch. This is a whole new program. It's a program that's been developed so that we can develop commercialization skills and export marketing skills, particularly orientated to the Asia Pacific market. So based on that, I'm now going to hand over to the Honourable Karen Andrews, who has a recorded message for us to launch our actual LSI Export Hub.
Hello, I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but Parliament's sitting in Canberra. Congratulations on the launch of the Life Sciences Innovation Export Hub. You join a network of federally funded SME export hubs around the nation, which are helping our small and medium-sized businesses take their big ideas and products to the world. Not only that, but they're building critical networks between industry and our researchers, as well as business to business. And the area in which your hub is focused couldn't be more fitting for the times. Medical products is one of 6 priority areas in our recently announced modern manufacturing strategy. Our highly skilled workforce and strong regulatory environment are the bedrock of our medical product sector. As a result, Australia has built an international reputation for high quality methodology and high safety standards in medicine. This reputation has only grown during COVID-19, and with increased demand and countries looking for new markets to purchase from, Australia is well placed to capitalise. So all the very best. I look forward to seeing the great outcomes which I know will come from this export hub.
Okay, so thank you very much. It was wonderful to hear from the Minister, and you can see that this is one of the key areas. There's a big focus on commercialisation, on translation, and on manufacturing. So this will play a key role in that. So in order to give us an overview of the new LSI Export Hub, we have Dr. Nagaraj Gopasetti to speak, and I'll just tell you a little bit about him first. So he's the Deputy CEO of Life Sciences Queensland. And he heads up the business development program, Life Sciences Catalyst. The LS Catalyst program is a platform delivering targeted initiatives and services to support Queensland-based life science startups and entrepreneurs, and to facilitate the growth of Queensland's life science industry. Nagaraj is an innovation architect with a proven track record in technology translation and commercialisation. Prior to joining LSQ, he was the Business Development and Innovation Education Manager at Translational Research Institute. He also worked as a technology transfer professional within Australian universities and medical research institutes. He's an active mentor on the IMNIS program, among others, and he's passionately interested in education and training programs aimed at improving current practices and processes within the knowledge exchange, knowledge transfer, and entrepreneurship in the life sciences sector. So I'm now going to hand over to Nagaraj.
Thank you, Lynn. I would like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and acknowledge the emerging leaders. I also would like to thank the Minister for those kind introductory remarks for the opening of the Life Sciences Innovation Export Hub. I definitely concur with the views that the Minister has presented and agree that we have a lot of strengths and capabilities of the Australian life sciences industry. The sector in Australia is substantial. We are globally competitive. And to date, we know there are a number of innovations and products that have made a difference to better the lives of people every day around the world. Some notable examples like the penicillin, the cochlear ear, Gardasil vaccine from Queensland, ResMed's sleep apnea treatment devices, the tea tree oil disinfectants, or the orthodontic braces. The list goes on and on. But before I proceed further and give an overview of the hub, I would like to give a quick introduction to Life Sciences Queensland for those of you who don't know who we are. We are well known as LSQ. We are a member-based organization working and advocating for the life sciences industry in Queensland. We highlight the key role the sector plays and the innovation we produce to heal, feed, and fuel our citizens by building upon our existing strengths and investments made. Major focus of LSQ is to bring the best people and the brightest minds together to collaborate, grasp new opportunities, and facilitate new investments, create more jobs, and help Queensland rise to the new world challenges. At the beginning of 2019, we launched the Life Sciences Catalyst program, which helps to accelerate the development of startups and SMEs. As Lynn mentioned, it provides them with opportunities at all stages of the innovation spectrum. It includes mentoring, training, education, introduction to networks that LSQ has built over the years, and we aim to create a unique roadmap with a customized solution for each new idea, supporting the founders and their startups to grow from strength to strength within Queensland. Why do we want to do that? We want to help maintain the global standards, the world standards Australian innovations have set. We know Australian life science products and services have a very good standard, well sought after, but will we be able to continue without the support And will this business be as usual in the post-pandemic world? And that's what we are trying to achieve. Whilst the concept of Life Sciences Innovation Hub was conceptualized pre-COVID, we had already targeted Asia as a market of interest, as it is the emerging new frontier, producing remarkable growth in multiple life sciences sectors. The region presents an immense commercial opportunity for biopharma, medical device, healthcare companies. For example, a report by Bain suggests healthcare expenditure in Asia Pacific is projected to grow by 7% annually to over US 2.4 trillion by 2022. This trend is unlikely to change, but may grow even further as nations across the world today look to address the impacts of the pandemic has had on their local healthcare system. The global pandemic outbreak has posed several challenges and raised questions on the future of globalization, trade, the increasing implications on the need for achieving sovereign capability and self-sustainability is having a mixed impact on the growth of businesses, and life sciences sector is not immune to this change. We cannot afford to make a world of disconnected markets, and many market forecasts suggest there will be an increase in international trade again as the pandemic comes under control. However, there is a possibility of changes in global trade policies, preferences in who we trade with. There's going to be changes in supply chain logistics. We can only hope to better be prepared for a new world trade order, ensuring our life science exports from Queensland and Australia continue to make a global impact, and we help achieve better health and economic benefits to Australia and the world by creating more local jobs. So as I mentioned, it is even more important now to act straight away to ensure we address these pressures, we remain enduring and be competitive within the emerging new global business environment. Through the hub, we look to facilitate a successful Asia market entry and establish good business collaborations. The Life Sciences Innovation Export Hub in Queensland is a pilot project over 2 years. It is a collaboration between LSQ, QUT, and ACTI. The hub will bring together industry, research, commercialization, trade, and business expertise from the Queensland life sciences sector together with dedicated Asian export capability and knowledge. As you can see, LSQ has already been working in this area, and the Catalyst program, we are aware of QUT's outreach in teaching, research, education, and also its implementation of the Bridge and the BridgeTech program. ACTI has its expertise in China and other Asia markets. So this hub will expand upon more and build upon these existing activities with the aim of providing a targeted platform for bringing Queensland and Australia's life science SMEs and startups onto the international stage. We hope to overcome current barriers by increasing their skills and knowledge, better understand Asia industry and market trends. We want to help develop better export strategies to increase competitiveness on the international stage. We want to make access to global networks of investors, businesses, supply chain solutions, foster collaborations with all stakeholders, both here at the local government and private sector involved in enabling export and trade. The one aim of this hub is increasing commercialization and export opportunities for Queensland and Australian SMEs and startups. The hub will deliver facilitated boot camps, immersion programs, and residency programs to participating companies that will better position them to take advantage of other services such as those offered by Trade and Invest Queensland, Austrade, RDA, and industrial growth centers like MTP Connect. I'm pleased to further say we have now opened the Queensland Life Sciences Innovation Hub activities for business. And without further ado, I would like to hand over to my co-presenters from my collaborating partner organizations, Lynn and Rob, who will discuss the hub programs and activities in further detail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nagaraj. That was an excellent opening. And so now we're going to go a little bit further and tell you, well, what is actually involved in the LSI Export Hub. So as Nagaraj indicated, I'm Professor Lynn Griffiths and I'm from QUT, but as a little bit of background, I'm the Executive Director of the Institute of Health and Biomedical Innovation. I'm also an active molecular geneticist who's involved in undertaking research to identify genes that play a role in common, mostly neurogenetic disorders. And translating this, I have a NATA accredited diagnostics lab that undertakes diagnostic testing for severe migraine, movement disorders, epilepsy, and hereditary stroke disorders. However, I'm also the director of the Bridge program and the BridgeTech program. Both of these are commercialisation training programs, the first in the pharmaceutical industry and the second in the medical technology, diagnostics and devices area. Both of these programs are nationwide programs supported by MTP Connect and by industry, and we have key industry partners as part of these collaborations and consortia. Those two programs are also part of a very new program that we've recently launched as well, and that's called the Bridge and BridgeTech Ready Intern Fellowships or Industry Fellowships program. So we have a number of programs that are focused on commercialization, as I've mentioned, right across the life sciences area. But this particular Life Sciences Innovation Export Hub is another stage. This is really looking beyond training in Australia in commercialisation and how to translate, and looking at how to actually start exporting and how specifically to get into that Asian market. And so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the program in terms of what we'll be doing in the domestic area. So looking at that, the LSI Export Hub, it will be opening today applications for people to be involved, and will be funded for 2 rounds. So we'll have 1 round each year. Nagaraj mentioned that this is a pilot program primarily focused on Queensland, and will be rolling out over a 2-year period. It's designed so that in each round in each year, there'll be 4 key phases of training and experience to promote export readiness, and also to facilitate the development of commercialisation opportunities in key Asian export markets. So the process of actually getting into the LSI Export Hub will be a competitive process, and the phases are going to be designed so that only the most outstanding candidates then progress through all of the different phases. The program is designed for participants to start with domestic workshops and seminars, and then move on to international immersion and residency opportunities. So just thinking about that a little bit, the first 2 phases, as I mentioned, would be domestic. So both of those will be domestic local activities. The phase 1 is a boot camp. Well, there'll be a series of 1 to 2 day boot camps across boot camps across Queensland. There'll be online training modules as well prepared, and there'll also be pitching exercises with feedback and experience so that people can learn how to do that a little bit better as they go through. In phase 2, after the initial boot camps and training modules have been gone through, the next stage is a phase 2 where we'll be looking at Asian readiness. And so these will be targeted seminars and workshops, one-on-one mentoring, and there'll be experts in industry involved, and there'll also be specific sectoral training. Many will be focused to particular markets. You might be interested in the Japanese market or the Korean or the Singaporean. So there'll be some exports that will facilitate the particular area that you're looking at developing into. As part of those boot camps, and I've mentioned that a couple of times now, so successful applicants will enter the LSI Export Hub boot camp phase, and this will involve online and in-person events. It'll be all about developing a market strategy, accelerating strategic thinking. It'll also focus on how you can do that in the technology side, the business side, and prepare readiness for Asian markets. We can expect to work through concepts such as things like market research, cultural research, also regulatory and IP pathways, etc. And it'll all be specific to parts of Asia as well. The first round of the round 1 boot camps will take place between November this year, 2020, and March 2021. And the first online introductory boot camp will be scheduled for the 25th of November. So as I've mentioned, we'll be opening applications shortly, and the very first group that come in will start pretty soon in November. We'll start that first boot camp. Then hopefully travel restrictions will start to lift and we'll be able to be having a bit more gatherings, but pending those, we'll have a number of sites will then be held across various locations. At the moment across Queensland, it's quite possible to have boot camps, not just in cities, but certainly across regional areas. And we'll be bringing in regional startups and SMEs to be involved in this across different areas across Queensland. In terms of just a few more details about this, so all successful applicants who are chosen for the boot camp phase will also receive access to our online training modules, and these will be self-paced, enabling you to work your own way through that, and they'll be rolled out throughout that first year of the program. The self-paced training modules will be supported by QUT's learning management system. So it'll be, we'll be able to put speakers up there, we'll have the modules that are up there, and anything else that we feel will be relevant and connected through to it. It'll focus on a range of areas such as commercialisation concepts, pitch training, materials that will support the bootcamp specific topics, such as regional specific cultural and sectoral information. It'll also have some dynamic training material too, so there'll be things like videos and links to webinars, etc., to help with this process. The boot camps and the online training will prepare the participants to then enter pitches to proceed through to round 2. And so based on the soundness of the technology, the strength of the IP, and the match with the Asian market, and how good that pitch was, people will then be proceeding on to that second round or round 2. So looking at that, the outstanding candidates who, as I mentioned before, meet all those criteria will then proceed through to phase 2 of the LSI Export Hub program, and this is the Asian Readiness program. So for this, we'll provide participants with workshops and seminars that are very specific to markets and to commercial requirements. There'll also be specific mentors that'll be available to participants in the Asian readiness phase, and they'll be able to discuss specific challenges and also the hurdles that need to be overcome in terms of technology and research reaching that target market. So the objective will then be to develop a sound Asian business strategy, and if it's ready, to then go that next phase onto phase 3 and the international activities. And that's where I'm going to pass over to Rob, and I'm so sorry, but I've just got to have a sip of water. Because as I've mentioned, we have some domestic activities, but we also have to have quite significant expertise in terms of international and Asia particular commercialisation experience. And so Rob Scott will be the key person that oversees this area, and today he'll give us a bit of an overview of that. But before we do that, I just want to tell you a little bit about him. So Rob Scott is the Managing Director of the Australia-China Technology Incubator, ACTI for short. He's Managing Director of China Blue Sky Partners and, as I mentioned, Australia-China Technology Incubator and Accelerator. Both companies have offices in Shanghai and Melbourne, and they focus on helping Australian life science medtech companies engage better with China and with Asia. Mr. Scott has an excess of 20 years experience in commercialising life sciences companies in Australia and China. He is the representative China for AusBiotech. He's a former executive director of ACBC, and he was state leader Queensland for EY's China Business Group. I'm now going to hand over to Rob to talk about the International LSI Export Hub activities.
Thank you, Lynn, and it's really fantastic to be here as part of joining with Bridge and BridgeTech and LSQ in terms of launching this great program. I guess before we get into that, maybe a little bit in terms of what we are, who we are. Hopefully my slides are working okay here. Yep, here we go. So essentially, ACTI, oops, let's go past it now. The ACTI is, as Lynn was saying, has been working, or I've been working personally, and of course in the China market and broader Asia market for 12 years. I'm based here in Shanghai with some of my team, and we're also joined today with our incubator manager, Alex Asenzo, who's based in Melbourne. And so we have a cross-border sort of focus, and our aim has always been to working in the life science sector with drug discovery, medtech, e-health companies, take the best of Australian innovation and research in that area to help commercialise and to globalise that into Asia. Despite the fact there's the $1 trillion market in Asia, still a very small proportion of life science businesses and technologies actually are successful in the market. And there's a number of reasons for that. And as people working in the sector and here based in Asia, we can sort of see what works, what doesn't. So when we set up ACTI, and we were, have been working, running our programs for the last 2 or 3 years now, we've had around 200 or so participants in those programs. It was really about finding the solutions, finding the practical outcomes, and having that drive the training, the teaching, the mentoring, and the people that we were bringing in the program to help participants succeed in the market from day one. So, and that's, I think, why we've been, successful in that, and why we've had around, I think of the 10% or so of participants coming into the China market over the last 2 years, around half of those have had a tangible outcome. So it's basically an investment, a partnership agreement, setting up a structure, selling a product, focusing around those outcomes in the market, and that's very, very key. And this is what we're looking to bring in and expand with the Life Science Innovation Export Hub program as well for other Asian markets. So we're not just confined to China. I've been based in Asia for quite a while, as have a number of our other mentors here. And you'll hear from Anthony Coles as well from HLab and about the TOS network later. Just in terms of bringing that experience and that expertise to bear to help all of you, essentially, if you've got a company, if you're running a project team at a university or a research institute, to look at where the opportunities are. So to help information, to help engagement, and then ideally, ultimately, to help success in those markets. So if we look at and I won't reiterate too much about what Lynn's provided as a great summary. Hopefully you can see that. There we go. The actual boot camp is modelled a lot on the successful sort of modules that we put through for the previous ACTI programs. And obviously we're really delighted to be, also incorporating and working with the Bridge and BridgeTech programs, which have also been where ACTI's been a strong participant in, and really impressed by the level of organisation and training going on in those sides, as well as the Catalyst program from Life Science Queensland. But looking at those specific sort of modules, what you'll get, as Lynn's already talked about, it's those key elements, those strategies to mitigate those challenges that we're all confronted, particularly now, I guess, in this COVID era, about how to get into an Asian market. So what are those regulatory challenges? And we have, Brandwood CKC, who are fantastic in terms of regulatory advisors and consultants in a whole range of Asian markets, talking about what are the key aspects, whether you're looking at Singapore, ASEAN, maybe Hong Kong or Japan, Korea. What are the differences? What are the opportunities? And how to best leverage your technology to get into, those markets easier. Maybe there are some easy channels, green channels to get into, quicker pathways, pitfalls you can avoid. So those are the things that we're looking to cover off there. Similarly, in terms of intellectual property. So we've been very lucky in terms of having FB Rice as a strong supporter for the ACTI programs previously, and will continue, at least for this first bootcamp, to talk about, and I think we have a couple of people from FBRICE on today's call to talk about the key strategies there for patent protection, but also for trademarks as well, very important, and how each of those different markets differ in terms of treatment and how to best protect, and the strategies which actually you can employ to promote and secure your innovations going into those markets. And similarly, in terms of the legal aspects and the strategic business planning aspects, we're looking at ways in which, you know, your strategy, coming up with the strategies and the focus of those areas for each of those Asian markets. And again, it has to be a different focus in each market. You can't have a one Asian market strategy. It doesn't work so well. Each market is different, has its own benefits and also its own challenges as well to overcome. But looking at those ways, whether it's due diligence of partners, how you form contracts, what legal structures to look at, how you actually fund those strategies. So in terms of funding, and again, Anthony could talk a little bit more about that, you know, in the next final part of our presentation today. But actually looking at how all those factors interplay in terms of your overall Asia strategy or your market strategy for Singapore versus your market strategy for Japan versus your market strategy for Korea and China, if you're looking at it. So those are the key elements there that we're looking to cover off on. So what are the next steps in terms of, you know, we're hopefully going to take a fairly straightforward approach, but not, in Asia, not always possible. Sometimes you need to work around some of these issues. But ultimately, we want to take you through these challenges, through these problems, come up with ways to sort of help you mitigate that. So Asia is not, these markets are not bewildering, they're not confronting, they're not scary. They're actually opportunities for your businesses, your organizations to take advantage of, to embed yourself in and be part of those ecosystems. Let's see. Here we go. So again, looking at the key part there, I guess, is getting ready. So in terms of getting Asia ready, so matching the companies which will be selected from the bootcamp, actually then taking those ones on and allocating one or possibly more sort of mentors to work with each of those businesses to help them develop their plans, develop your plans further. And that's a really critical method. And I guess one which is which I guess distinguishes our life science innovation export hub programs for some of the other ones around, that we are very flexible in terms of this mentoring approach. It's very, very critical to work on your specific market plan for that specific market or markets in Asia, and to actually appoint and apply the knowledge of these mentors. And all the mentors we have in our group are all experienced either in life sciences or medtech, or health, or in Asia, or both. And actually looking at ways in which we can leverage their experience to help your business. Just making the thing through here. This slight delay, sorry, on my end. But here we go. So the final stage or stages, I guess, of the program, as you can see there, is as Lynn mentioned earlier, is the immersion and then the residency stage. I won't talk too much about either of those because that's also what Anthony will be talking about in a minute. But getting to market obviously is not an easy approach, essentially in Asia. It's can be complicated. There's a number of factors, as we talked about in the boot camps, that you'll need to work on in that mentoring stage. But the aim ultimately, as I said, is a practical outcome, a development of your business, your organization into those markets. So what are the pathways, and helping you find those is a key outcome for us. So the immersion stage will consist of up to a 1 week, so 3 to 5 days, practical mission, trade investment mission into those markets. So it might be Singapore, it might be Hong Kong, it could be Japan or Korea. It depends in terms of where the demand is, where the numbers are, but we'll be formulating specific missions to each of those countries optimally. And really looking, and those 3 to 5 days will consist of a lot of face-to-face meetings, seminars, but practical ones which build on the learnings that you've already received from the bootcamp and obviously from the mentoring side. And then building onto that in terms of connecting with potential partners, customers, and providers in market who can help facilitate that process further and faster for you in those marketplaces. And again, Anthony will be talking a bit about the specifics. For example, the TOS, which is one of our key partners in this program, are employing through a number of markets in Asia to do that. And of course, funding as well. So what this will be culminating in, typically in this immersion program, will be a pitching presentation session to industry partners and to investors in those markets. And it will be a number of other stakeholders involved in this. For example, in Hong Kong, in addition to TS, you will also be having a Hong Kong Science Technology Park, which is a key market partner, a key destination. I think 6,000 organisations based there at the moment, all highly innovative. So working with their group, their staff as well in terms of this particular program, and then ongoing potentially into the residency program. In Singapore, it will be groups like APAC Med, which is the Medical Device Association, so helping build their networks. So it's all about bring those local networks closer to where you are as an Australian or Queensland life science, medtech, e-health organisation into those markets to make the whole transition easier and faster and more effective. So I'll leave it there. As I said, I won't talk too much more about the immersion and residency programs. I'll leave that for Anthony to mention and to bring in. But I'll hand back now to Lynn, who will introduce Anthony Coles from HLab Australia.
Well, thanks so much, Rob. That was an excellent overview of some of the plans in terms of the Asian immersion phase of the LSI Export Hub. What I want to do now is to introduce the next speaker, and this is Anthony Cole. So he's from H+ Lab, and this is a strategic partner with the Australia-China Technology Incubator, and it provides commercialisation advice and support to business and government. So H+ Lab and ACTI are supporting the QUT LSQ SME Export Hub, that is the LSI Export Hub program in the Southeast Asian market. Now, since first venturing to China in 2007, Anthony has been involved in export, tourism, health, clean energy, investment and education business with China, establishing a company in China in Guangdong in 2015. In 2017, Anthony brokered a visit to Australia by delegates from I'm not sure if I'm going to get this right, that's something I have to learn, Tsinghua University's commercialisation arm, which is called TUS Holdings. And this is part of a collaboration with the South Australian Health and Medical Research Institute, that's SAMRI, and the South Australian Government. Anthony established H+ Lab Australia as a vehicle for further cross-border collaboration and exchange, and since then H+ Lab China runs a $20 million venture fund focused on commercialising research and technology in health and well-being. Now, Anthony will introduce this commercialisation network and support services, along with sharing some insights into the opportunities for Australian businesses looking to commercialise in the Asia market. Thank you so much, Anthony, and I look forward to hearing this overview.
Thanks again, Lynn. And thank you again to Life Science Innovation Export Hub for the opportunity to present today. What I'll be doing is, same as Rob, getting my slides to work. There we go. I'm just going to give an overview of the reason that Rob reached out to us to partner with him on this program with the Life Science Innovation Hub. Bit of background from me, background in marketing communications, worked in the renewable sector, ended up being CEO of a listed company, that got me spending a lot of time in Japan and Korea and China, of course, and some other Southeast Asian countries. And what I saw back in early 2010s was just the pace of which China's transition. That was at the time when they doubled the global production capacity of solar panel manufacturing within a year, and pretty much created the opportunities for us at the moment with our low carbon future. I set up an export business, as was mentioned, but got involved with some cross-border advisory, which really has had me work across a number of different sectors. The Tsinghua University is a very important organisation in the ecosystem in China, but also this picture here was a few years ago now at what was the Innovation and Entrepreneurship competition with UNSW, which took a group of companies up into China, into Shanghai, to present at a competition. I was fortunate enough to host and to do some judging across that program, but the area of health and well-being is a real focus in China. And next week there is a planning session where they'll be really mapping out the activities for the next 5 years and the areas of focus. This week, in actual fact, in China is their Innovation and Entrepreneurship Week, and there's hundreds of events across different cities in China. It's a real KPI for the local governments and the provincial governments to transform their economies, and Australia has a lot of opportunities to participate. Within the Tsinghua commercialisation arm, one part of it is the building of science parks. So in that top right part of the chart there, within China, they're actually being invited into cities to build science parks and areas of innovation. And within those parks, they then are creating the opportunities. There's a city up in the northeast of China called Yantai. It used to be a gold mining city, a little district outside of Yantai, and it's been turned into a biotech hub. It just so happens that the mayor of that city, the CEO of the venture fund, and the general manager of the CMO company are all Tsinghua alumni. And so what I've been fortunate to do is to be in the inside of a lot of the structural dynamics of what happens with the planning regime in China and how they set out the directions for what's going to happen in each city and for each industry. You'll see on there, there's a number of locations now in Asia, but also in Europe and in the US and Canada. So they're not just focusing on the domestic market, they're also absolutely trying to support the connection with these other markets. Unfortunately, our activities here have been stalled, not just through COVID, but through the challenges of the way things have developed in the last 12 or 18 months. But we feel really positive that this program is actually what's called like a track 2 program to allow us to connect with that market. As I mentioned, this organisation has a focus on these 6 industry areas, and with ACTI, we're focusing on the health sector, which in itself you'll see is quite a big area of focus. Back to that competition where this is now happening online. So each week I'm involved in a webinar pitch competition in any one of those cities. At the moment, there's a lot of activity in Hainan, and next week there's a program also between China and Japan. The bottom right there is an event in a city called Xi'an, which is again got another biotech focus, which is really relevant. Different university, research institute, and businesses investing in these science parks. And the reason this works is that it creates the pull through. So if you understand that you may have a medical device for a hospital, but if you know the city that they're building 15 hospitals in, and then it's a good place to set up your incubation and commercialization. On the inbound side, we hosted a dozen of their senior executives. This is down at Flinders, where we took them into the medical device partnering program there, and the New Ventures Institute. We had presentations from a lot of the companies that are starting to get traction now in some Series A and subsequent round investments. They are still interested in market and cross-market exchanges. So again, even though we'll be doing a lot of activity online in the next few months, they're really supportive of in-market immersion programs. An example of what they do is in their TUSDAR program within their TUS Park in Hong Kong, which is actually built just on the Kowloon side overlooking the old airport actually, which is now a cruise terminal. But what you get support there with is like any co-working site or incubator. What this allows us to do from Australia, but also embedded there within them in Hong Kong, is to research your product, competitive environment, look at the regulatory sectors, and look at investment partners and all commercial partners to work with. And so they're a really supportive network that we can brief them from here and start working on that straight away. These are just a couple of videos of their Beijing head office. And so what they try to do here is to expose visitors to their broader network. And what you'll see here in this one is actually the way that they integrate their business. Each of their sectors are actually got a number of companies that are investing in. It allows them to identify opportunities across those 6 business areas that I mentioned. This is a cool interactive wall actually on the other side of that, which this is focusing on their clean energy sector, which goes from wind to solar to hydrogen and other thermal products, but also water. They've got a water division. And as it moves through the, I guess, the urbanized environment, it's looking at medical sectors, it's looking at transport infrastructure, Internet of Things, and all interconnected. So the university and the science park and the commercialization business are all integrated. Just to highlight a couple of the locations, this is an area I'm hoping to get to next month, Hainan. It's just had a huge announcements with their policy initiatives to attract investment and business growth there. Very big focus on the health and medical markets. There's a couple of other, obviously the Greater Bay Area's got a big strategic focus with Shenzhen and Guangzhou, but also a couple of areas on, Nanning and Zhongli in Guizhou province. Very strong bio and pharma and med tech focus. All of these again are strategic locations where the local government and the province are actually investing in these transitional economies. And as you'll see, Hainan's actually, scribbled this down somewhere, it's about, just for perspective, it's about half the size of Tasmania or 20 times the size of Fraser Island. So, and it's just having a huge amount of investment in its infrastructure at the moment. And as we move through that Asian market, a couple of years ago, they had this fanfare announcement, as we're all used to, the MOUs. And this is part of what this program will do for us, is it will set a platform and a foundation of exchange and relationship development, which will enable us to really grow the relationships. And so subsequent to that, they've just done an agreement with the university there in Bangkok, where TUS are formalising their incubator program and investing in the development of a science park. In Malaysia, the site there in Kuala Lumpur was opened by the Deputy Prime Minister. They're running bi-monthly webinars at the moment with Kuala Lumpur, with different cities in China, but also doing a lot of exchange programs through this ASEAN region. So in KL, we're able to have workplaces and pitch competitions and introductions to industry networks. And we hope to have a webinar later this year from the Malaysia office to this program. In Singapore, a year ago, they launched the TUSTAR outlet there. They've got a very strong relationship with the University of Singapore. There's a very big eco-development zone up in Tianjin, a city in northeast China, which is a partnership with the Singapore government. So there's a lot of connections there, and a great opportunity for us to, depending on the product and the opportunity, to look at that Singapore market. Japan, again, it's taken a couple of years to develop this, but they're running a pitch competition actually at the moment. And these are some China-based companies heading into presenting in Japan. And in Korea, the partnership with TUSTAR, with the Korea Institute of Startup and Entrepreneurship, is a little bit south of Seoul. But again, providing us with a soft landing entry point into Korea. An interesting one that we wanted to put in was what's happened in the UK, which is quite a big investment, about £400 million that they've invested in Cambridge Science Park. Up the top here, they're building 4 biotech buildings and some development labs. We're involved with them at the moment, working with some other Australian companies, looking to head over there and partner. So just to summarise, really appreciating the opportunity to participate in this program, really feel that this gives us an opportunity to understand the market more, develop these relationships, and reduce the risk of what has historically been a pretty challenging market to enter into, and really looking forward to the opportunity to working with you all in getting those businesses sorted. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anthony. That was an excellent overview. As I said at the beginning, if you have any questions, it's fine to put some questions up in the Q&A area or the chat function, and we'll facilitate those towards the end. So we've had a couple of excellent speakers. Rob and Anthony have given us some idea of what we can expect for our successful applicants to go through into the Asian immersion side and who they might be talking to. As I mentioned, Nagaraj gave us an overview of the whole hub and what its aims are. And we've also talked a little bit about the boot camps and other online modules, etc., that will occur in Australia. So what I want to do now is to introduce you to the program manager. So the program manager for LSI Export Hub is Joel Spotswood. He's actually at QUT as well. He's at the Institute of Health and Biomedical Innovation at QUT. And he's responsible for leading the operational functions and the management of a portfolio of research commercialization programs. He has a background in biotechnology, IP and economics, and a strong history of developing strategic partnerships between industry and research within the life sciences sector. He's held intellectual property advisory roles and government policy positions, specialising in IP management, R&D funding, and consulting with inbound international pharmaceutical companies to bring clinical trials to Australia. As I mentioned, we run a number of programs in collaboration with the consortia out of QUT, and Joel is currently managing BTB Bridge and BridgeTech programs, but also I mentioned we're now running a Bridge and BridgeTech Ready Industry Fellowships program, and also today, of course, the Life Sciences Innovation Export Hub, which he'll tell you about. I will point out that applications are now available through our website. It's open for anyone to apply. There's no cost involved in doing this. So this is something that's supported by government, and that's why we had the Minister to launch it today. It's something that government is keen to promote. They would like to see us commercialising more and entering into the export market. But as we did mention, it's a bit competitive and there is a process. So Joel is going to give us an overview of that right now. Thank you, Joel. I hope so.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, so like Lynn mentioned, I'm going to be the hub manager of the Export Hub, and from working out of QUT, so really excited to be working with our partners LSQ and ACTI and our external partner H+ Labs and TUS to bring you what's going to be a really exciting initiative over the next couple of years. And like you would have heard in the Minister's address, we're positioned in a really exciting space, an exciting sector, a challenging time, no doubt, but lots of opportunity for sure. So just before we get onto the Q&A section, where you get to ask all the speakers whatever's on your mind about the hub or the partners or anything else, I just thought it'd be worthwhile to reiterate what the application selection process is going to look like. So as Lynn mentioned, applications are now live. Very exciting. So you can follow that link there on the screen. You'll also receive a link at the end of today's webinar. So go to our website, especially if you've come today and you're really interested in applying, by all means, go and check it out ASAP. It is a competitive selection process. So just want to reiterate that if you are interested in the hub or the events that we're going to be undertaking or the materials, or you're interested in accessing what our partners have to offer or international opportunities, you do have to apply. So just to reiterate that, to go to our website, have a look at the application form and start to put together your application if you want to start accessing some of the Export Hub materials and programs. So the application process will involve you describing to us, I guess, why you're fit for the SME Export Hub. So that'll include things such as the stage of your technology or research development, your commercialisation plan, your experience with the Asian sector, if any, your compatibility with some of our identified export markets, amongst some other things like, what's your target time to market, what specific export advice are you interested in, what target markets are you interested in, things like that. So not only is that going to give us a really good idea of who the hub participants are and how to best target our resources, it should hopefully be a really good exercise for you if you're applying to sort of take stock of where you're at and what you're hoping to get out of the hub. And, that should lead from both parties to some really significant outcomes. Just to clarify, we are an SME Export Hub program. So the focus is on startups and SMEs going through the hub. Just wanted to clarify though, that if you are an individual who's a researcher or an entrepreneur, and you're contemplating spinning out or creating a startup or something like that, and you're in the life sciences space, reach out to us, contact us through the communication channels, or put in an application and just clarify sort of where you're at and what your timeframes are and what your plan is for accessing the Asian market. And we'll consider that as part of the selection process as well. And then just to reiterate, Lynn mentioned before, we do have a focus on Queensland. If we do get the opportunity to undertake in-person boot camps and events at the start of next year, they'll most likely be in Queensland, but we are going to leave the door open for outstanding applications from other parts of Australia. So if you are interested in the Export Hub and you're not in Queensland and you think you're willing to commit to the travel that's required or anything like that to go to Queensland, again, contact us or put through an application and we'll consider it on a case-by-case basis. So the selection process, so just to reiterate, so when you're applying, you're basically applying to get access to phase 1. So as Lynn mentioned, that's going to involve a series of boot camps, some self-paced online training, and the opportunity to do some pitching exercises. And then obviously those that undergo phase 1, then obviously have the opportunity to go through to phase 2 and beyond, and really start to get those sort of exclusive access to those resources, such as the immersion and the residency opportunities that Anthony described. So this all sort of kicks off quite quickly. Our bootcamp series, as we're calling it, is going to be held over from November 2020 to March 2021. And that's going to commence with our introductory bootcamp on the 25th of November 2020. So if you want to come to our introductory bootcamp and you're interested in hearing from those speakers, Rob did put up sort of a program briefly in his talk, and you could see that there was some industry leaders there across, you know, a number of key aspects such as regulatory, IP, Asian culture and partnerships. We'll hear from some case studies from people who've done it before. So some really vital resources for you to access. So if you do want to go to that bootcamp, strongly encourage you to get your application in prior to the 25th so we can invite you, because we'll only be inviting people who have applied. So now I'll just talk about next steps, which I've kind of just gone through. So applications are open now. Feel free to check out the website and our application form. You can contact us if you have any queries about the application process or want more information about the program. Our introductory bootcamp is next month, and then we'll start to roll out the remaining of the phase 1 and start transitioning into phase 2 early next year. So there are a number of channels to get in touch with the Export Hub. We have a Twitter account which you can follow, which will keep you up to date with all events and things that are happening, and which will also probably keep you up to date with everything that's happening with our partners as well. And that's at LSI Export Hub. You can reach us at lsiexporthub@qut.edu.au, and of course visit our website to find out more information about the program and submit an application if you're planning to do so. So I'll leave it there. That's probably a lot of information to take in. So really just want to reiterate that applications are live as we speak. So really encourage you to go and check out the application form and start thinking about putting one together. So I think we're going to open it back up now for a bit of a Q&A with all the speakers and all the partners from the 4 partners. So encourage you to use the Q&A and the chat function to send off any queries, and we'll spend the next 10 minutes or so just sort of going through those. So good opportunity to fire off any questions about the program if you've got them on your mind. So I think we'll just get everyone back online. I can see Lynn there.
I think we've got one question up there from Tracy Scott Remington.
Yeah, I can see the first question from Tracy. So I might get you to answer this one first, Lynn. Will play a role to encourage connections and possible collaborations between the participating SMEs, where it is seen that there may be opportunities to scale and grow if they were to combine their efforts and research to co-create? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I can't think of any reason that we wouldn't do that. I mean, that's what this is all about. Networks are to encourage people to collaborate. And so if we can facilitate that, whether it's myself or Nagaraj or Rob, we'll obviously try to do that, because we can all grow a lot further and probably have some new ideas as well by doing that. So yes, there's definitely a way we can encourage connections.
Agreed, 100%. Rob, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, definitely, Joe. I think that would be a great outcome to have. And I guess from an investor perspective, they always look at complementary, synergies in terms of technology. So there's from a portfolio perspective, if there are complementary companies or technologies that can be put together, then obviously that's going to benefit all parties really in terms of increasing the opportunities to get investment or get partnering if there's getting more parts to the puzzle, I guess.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it raises a really interesting point that as you progress through the bootcamp, you will be progressing with peers, so that is an additional network that you'll be building as you go through the hub as well.
Definitely. And just on that point, one of the key actually outcomes or results that we had in the past, and we expect to get from the LSI programs as well, would be that cross sort of collaboration and co-working with the Indigenous, not Australian Indigenous, but Indigenous to Asia entrepreneurs, whether it be in Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, Korea, wherever. That cross-pollination of ideas and potential networks is really a bit of an understated sort of advantage, but really has been a big benefit to those companies who have made it over in the past to market and have maintained and I think really developed those linkages as a result.
Yep, great. Got a question through, maybe Rob and Anthony from an international perspective. You can take this one. What's the interest in the Indian sector?
Oh, good question. I think, and we certainly look, I mean, India obviously is more broadly part of Asia. We haven't got, I don't think as yet, a specific program around India. But, you know, should there be, I guess, very strong demand there, then I think perhaps the scope of the program might lend itself to doing certainly some presentations or an event around that. Najaraj, I know you're particularly interested in this market. Anything you want to add to that?
Thanks, Rob. Sudeep, LSQ has entered into a MOU with ABLE, which is the organization in India. Conversations are going on in the background as we speak as to how we would be working with ABLE and a few other incubators up in both Bangalore and Hyderabad. But at this point of time, it's a watch the space. But if there is considerable interest from SMEs and startups over here, we should be able to connect into those markets quite easily.
Great. So just got another question. This one might be another one for you, Rob. What are the 3 most common barriers experienced by Aussie startups when trying to enter the China market? So I'll try to answer that briefly, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it specifically says China market.
Yeah. Well, look, I think, to be honest, and given the current situation, I think the biggest one is probably perception. Really, is you know, companies always the ones that we have worked with, and I've been working in the China space, based here, of course, for 12 years, and working with them for even longer. It's often overcoming those perception barriers. So, you know, the fact that in China's case, that there are, you know, weaknesses around intellectual property protection, or the regulatory process takes forever, those sort of things, or you can't get funding. None of those actually are true. They're all you know, true to some extent, but none of them are really are true. There are always ways through. So whether it be around intellectual property, regulatory, funding, they're probably the 3 main ones. Human resources, I guess, is the other one that comes up to growing a business here. There's always strategies, and this is what our whole effort collectively is about, you know, for this program and for our past programs. It's all around helping overcome, demystify the fog around, not just in China, but in Asia and generally, and making a clearer path, you know, putting some sort of milestones, mile markers, I should say, in place, so people can actually sort of see, a bit like a lighthouse, you can actually sort of see a pathway to the next point. It mightn't be to the end goal, but it'll be to the next stage, the next stage, the next stage, and to eventually your organisation can get to where you want to go. So hopefully that answers the question.
Great. Anthony, got a comment?
Yeah, exactly what this program is all about. The first point is understanding, and so this program is going to help participants improve that understanding, and even through that, through bringing this direct market knowledge into the LSI Export Hub, it's going to improve understanding beyond that. One of the key things is we have to really work out this involvement of government in business over there. In Shenzhen, for example, the Shenzhen city government is an investor in a venture fund. That venture fund is a joint investment with Tsinghua Research Institute, and that company is investing in the same as any startup program here, investment through angel through to A, B, IPO. So they're in the growing company's business as well. The second point is exactly what Rob said. It's about structure. So we can work with organisations here on how to help them with their corporate structure, which helps protect IP and then prepare them for soft landing when they enter. And that third area, as Rob mentioned as well, is funding. you've really got to have the ability to have the patience to work on understanding and developing those relationships in market.
Okay, great. Got another question that I might fire at you, Lynn. Dave said that he works for an SME that specialises in laboratory automation, such as sample and liquid handling robots. Would that company qualify for taking part in the hub, or are you more targeting companies that have and he's putting back science offering?
No, definitely. All aspects of life sciences. So definitely automation, particularly relevant to laboratories, as the question alluded to, would be highly relevant to this. That's exactly the sort of thing that would be very keen on getting out there. You know, it can be a wide range of areas. So it can be automation relevant to things like laboratories. It could be hard science, as you said, you commented on in terms of pharmaceuticals, etc. It could be diagnostics. It could be medical devices. It could be equipment associated with any of these things. It could be even in the more life sciences area. So it might be even more into the agricultural or the biological sciences area, environmental. So anything in the life sciences area, we're keen on being able to support. It doesn't have to be an SME as well. It could just be someone who's got something that they're about to develop into an SME. So, you know, it doesn't actually have to be set up at this stage, or it could be something that's a little bit larger as well. The whole aim is that Australian government is keen to support, and that's what this program is all about. Okay. Anthony, you had your hand up a bit too. Did I cover enough areas?
Oh, no, that's exactly right. It's life science, you know, ag tech. There's a lot happening out of Brisbane with some great seaweeds.
Seaweeds.
Well, that whole area. So yeah, I think historically there's been a focus on pharma and medical devices. This life science allows us, and hopefully what we can do is bring in the sector knowledge from each market into the hub, and we can then sharpen our focus on who to really give that extra effort and support to grow. And what it's about is growing Australian businesses, creating Australian jobs, and it's how we do that with those overseas partners.
So answer to that question is definitely yes.
Yeah.
We strongly encourage you to put in an application. I think Kylie's just put the website up there as well. So applications are open, they're live now. So it's research.qut.edu.au/LSI Export Hub/. So I'm just saying it because I just want to make sure that people realise that's what this is about. It won't cost you anything. The government is supporting this. We're all very keen on jobs and making sure we get our commercialised products out there. So life sciences, big area. A couple more questions, Joel. I'll hand back to you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we are. I'm conscious of the time, but we do have a couple. We have plenty of questions coming through, so I'll try to answer as much as I can. So Kartik has asked, if I'm planning to start a company, what all essential groundwork should I do before I approach the hub? Where exactly should I start? So Phil, I can open this up to all the partners. I mean, that's obviously a pretty broad question, but I mean, I would say that, like I said before, we'd probably consider situations like that on a case-by-case basis, and the application process should sort of crystallise a couple of those things for Kartik in terms of how far he thinks he is from commercialising, how far away he thinks he is from entering markets such as export markets, what export markets he thinks he's interested in. I don't know what technology he has. But I mean, and feel free to jump in, guys, but I would say that we'd encourage someone in Kartik's situation just to approach us or put an application form in, and we can sort of take it from there. Any further comments?
I would just add to say the Catalyst program is exactly over there to help companies that are starting to establish a startup at whatever stage they are. And we can definitely, as long as it's life sciences, we can work with you and see where the best fit is. And because we closely work between the partners within ACTI and QUT, we can each make sure that you go through the right programs and be ready for the export hub at the right time. So either or, which program best fits in, we can help you, but doesn't matter who you reach out first.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's a great point in terms of, because we're bringing together the three partners who will run three, existing successful programs that all complement, plus the hub. you know, if you approach us, we'll obviously put you in the right direction. There'll be something for you to do, and whether that's some or all, or put you on the right pathway. So that's a really good point. Another question, maybe, Rob, you can take this from an Asian market perspective, but how would the hub benefit an Australian producer or manufacturer of medical cannabis?
It would depend, I guess, Joel, in terms of the various regulatory requirements around, you know, medical cannabis in those different markets. And I know this is increasing and expanding. So, you know, again, this goes back to the, I guess, the earlier question, is really trying to find the right market for the technology at the right time. You know, that's very key, and that's something that, again, the hub through its mentors and partner networks can assist on, you know, broadly, and also, of course, specifically once we identify those markets or markets, we can actually help, you know, in terms of trying to procure the right kind of partners and the right kind of in-market advice. That's very essential to being successful in this.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's a classic case for this hub in that, for example, somewhere like Malaysia is a no-no, just from where it's at culturally and regulatory. Korea, for example, have just approved some local hubs there for cannabis trials. Not much in China, but that's back to a university research collaboration to really, you know, prove the efficacy, and probably looking at something to do with traditional Chinese medicines to allow them. You've got to understand that they'll probably want to be looking at developing and manufacturing in market as well. But Japan and Korea are two of the more progressive markets. Thailand, Vietnam got some issues.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, Anthony, in terms of that's what the hub's going to provide. I mean, it's going to provide insight into things like differences between seemingly similar markets. So, yeah, that's obviously something we could work with that participant towards. So I'm just conscious of the time. So I think I'll wrap it up there, and I might just hand over back to you, Lynn, to officially close us.
Okay, I just want to thank all of the speakers for giving up your time today. This is a true collaboration. So we have 3 totally different partners that have come together here to really focus on export into Asia markets. We're here to help you. We'd love to have people apply. Anthony's provided an overview again of why it's so important to appear on a global scale, and that's what we need to do from Australia. So please apply, please come and talk to us, and I just want to thank all of the speakers today. Fantastic presentations, and it's going to be a good collaboration. And thank you, Joel, for fielding all the questions and for managing all the things that will continue to come in. So,
my pleasure.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thanks, everyone.